Your real estate decisions could be ruining your love life. Is dating broken today? There are 8 billion people on the planet, and yet no one can find anyone.
In a nutshell, yes, I do believe that dating is broken. People have less emotional availability, authenticity and commitment. 3-4 weeks in, they might get distracted by something shiny and then leave you abandoned.
Her advice is controversial. She says you should date as many people as possible.
I don't agree with it. I don't think it helps to create a connection. You have to remember that apps are a business. A successful relationship is a cancelled subscription. We're getting dopamine hits from the swipes. It's turned dating into a game. When there's too much abundance, people become disposable.
Trudy Gilbert, you are Australia's #1 matchmaker.
Well, thank you.
And dating advice guru. So I'm so glad you could come and talk to us on Real Talk today.
My pleasure. Look, I'm so excited about this topic and I can't wait to discuss it.
Well, look, it's an interesting concept. You know, we have a real estate podcast, but we're talking about the real life around real estate. You know, all the reasons why people buy and sell property. And it's because they are getting loved up and moving in together, because they're getting divorced and they're breaking up the assets, because they're having a child and they need more space, because someone got a promotion so they want to have a bigger home. You know, all those sorts of real life questions. But today we're talking about how your real estate decisions could be ruining your love life. The first question I want to ask you is pretty brutal, but is dating broken today? Because, I mean, there are 8 billion people on the planet and yet no one can find anyone.
Look, in a nutshell, yes, I do believe that dating is broken, and it's got nothing to do with access, because we have, you know, obviously with more technology today, we have more ways to meet people. There are more dating sites, apps, events, meetups, matchmakers than ever. So the problem isn't options. What we're facing, though, is a problem where people have less emotional availability, authenticity and commitment. So the problem comes from, if you're looking for a long-term relationship, how do you know that the person that you're sitting opposite wants the same? Are they just telling you what you want to hear? And if they are wanting a long-term relationship, how do you know that there's commitment to seeing if things could develop? 3-4 weeks into the relationship, they might get distracted by something shiny and exciting over here and go, well, I'm going to check out that for a while, and then leave you abandoned. You know, it's really complex because, you know, there's so much choice these days, and we all know that when we have too much choice, we have analysis paralysis. I know if I sit down at a restaurant and I have a menu that's got 50 things, I'm like, I don't know what to pick.
It's so true. Chicken or beef.
Yeah.
Right?
It's really simple.
Yeah. I watched a podcast recently of an American matchmaker, and her advice is, in my eyes, controversial and not something I particularly agree with. But she says you should date as many people as possible. And her reasoning behind doing that is so that, because when we meet someone, she says our oxytocin levels go up, you know, the feel-good hormones. So we get connected and attached to that person. And she says that that can actually hinder things. It can actually sort of block you from making a smarter decision. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I do know that people subscribe to this theory, but I don't agree with it, and I don't think it helps to create a connection. There are things that you can do to moderate how you're feeling during the early stages of a relationship, so that you can kind of pull yourself into check, you know, and not kind of dive in too quickly, get too fixated if they're not texting, they're not calling when they say they are, keep busy, be distracted. And there are ways that you can navigate those early uncertain phases of a relationship, but I don't think that you should invest in dating several people at once.
Sounds exhausting.
Yes. Yeah. And it doesn't create that authenticity that's required when you connect with someone.
Right. It almost turns dating into a sport.
Well, dating has become a game. It's become gamified, and that's the apps have led us to that point. You know?
Well, it sounds like they're just trying to keep us subscribed.
Look, they are. They essentially are. You have to remember that apps are a business, and they're in the business of engagement. Now, not the romantic kind.
Right.
They want to keep you there, because if you think about it, a successful relationship is a cancelled subscription. So they don't want you to leave. And we have to think about what the apps actually do. They've got us swiping. We're getting dopamine hits from the swipes. It's turned dating into a game, a novelty. We do have hope. The only thing that the apps sell you is the feeling of progress. that you might be making in your romantic future, but there's no requirement of commitment. So, everybody's on there. People are not honest with the reasons that they're there. They're not honest with their information. They behave poorly. It's not conducive to creating connection, because when we have too much choice, when there's too much abundance, people become disposable, and we don't value each individual connection.
And, that's why I feel like dating's turned into a sport, because like a girlfriend of mine, for example, she goes on about 4 dates every Sunday. They're coffee dates. They're not full-fledged lunches and dinners and things like that. But to me, I feel like, how can you, from a very authentic place, just sit in your presence, in the other person's presence, in your own energy, be calm, have your nervous system nice and relaxed, so that you can actually enjoy that space with that person and really start to understand them.
Yes.
If you're just flying through your to-do list, it really doesn't leave much option, does it?
It doesn't, and that's the biggest problem with dating today, that there's too much choice, and singles are trapped and terrified of 2 things: settling, missing out on something better. So what they do is they end up staying in this middle zone where they constantly evaluating people. And dating has become modern dating has almost become a consumeristic behaviour. We assess, we look to optimise, we look to then upgrade and replace.
These are very corporate terms.
Yes, and this mindset is destroying the whole romantic notion of meeting someone and then wanting to spend time with them, because people turn up on a date and they feel like they have to ask all the hard questions immediately. They have to find out, if you want children, how many, what job you have, what car you have, where you live, how much money you make. They're asking all these questions to assess whether or not they want to actually go on another date with them. Where is the fun? Where is the banter?
Right.
Where's the playfulness that needs to happen when
that
you're
allows
dating?
that chemistry to come to the surface?
Correct.
Yeah.
Why do we feel that we need to know all of this information immediately?
Right. I almost feel like you should be filling out a questionnaire and just swapping them over at the dinner table and saying, "Oh, well, that looks okay to me. All right, well, let's have another bottle of wine."
Yeah. Well, dating has become so transactional because we have this mindset now that, we're deserving of everything immediately. It's the I want whatever I want whenever I want it. Because if you look at life and how that's progressed in the last, 30, 40 years, we can have nearly anything we want at any time. We can stream when we want. We can get anything delivered from Amazon. We can get food delivered, and we can even have dating whenever we want. I could pick up the app if I was single. I could pick up the app and I could arrange a date tonight if I wanted to. I could go out and meet someone. I can have a dating experience. I can't have a relationship immediately. That's what people get confused about.
Yes.
That takes time because you have to build that. But they can fool themselves into thinking that I can have this and I can have it now.
A girlfriend rang me yesterday because she knew I was recording with you today, and she said she wanted to talk about a date that she's going out on this weekend. And she was talking about her options, and I said, well, are you dating or are you looking for a relationship? Because I think they're very different, aren't they?
They are. There's so much expectation now when it comes to dating. People are expecting immediate chemistry. They're expecting a flawless communication experience. They don't want any disruption. It's like they're almost anticipating a flawless relationship. That's not a relationship. That's a curated experience. Relationships are messy. Relationships have times where you misunderstand one another, or where there are moments of uncertainty, in those early phases of dating. That's a lot of expectation to place on an immediate connection. And when you do that, you're ignoring the natural romantic, path that can happen when you meet someone and chemistry is there, because you just get to know one another. And again, it comes back to having fun and keeping it playful.
I put out a call to some of my girlfriends and I said to them, I'm going to be interviewing a matchmaker and dating coach, and I'd like to know what questions you've got for us. So this lady is a 52-year-old female. She says, I'm not on the apps and would like to know where to meet men.
Well, first of all, I think that's great that you're not on the apps because I do think that they're flawed. And the best way to meet people is just in your everyday life, or putting yourself in situations where you're pursuing your interests and you can meet like-minded people. So I would ask your friend, what does she like to do? What does she do in terms of exercise? Is there a way that she could combine that with a social element to meet people?
Join a tennis club or something
exactly.
like that. Right.
Pickleball's really great
and
popular at the moment, so that can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And to make strategic decisions about pursuing her interests, but also creating space to meet someone who who shares that interest.
Let's talk about dating over 50 because, the blueprint that we used for dating back in 1985 really needs a firm upgrade now, doesn't it? I mean, is it harder for older singles to adjust to the new world of dating and romance?
I do think it's harder because they're wired to understand the benefits of gradual connection, which is perfect. I really believe that relationships take time because you need to develop a basis of friendship and you get to know one another and you build up what I call good credits versus bad credits, and I can explain that in a minute. That takes time. Now we have this whole mindset of instant evaluation. We sit down across from one another, the questions are fired, the assessment begins, the judgment takes place, and it's all about, do you meet my criteria? Are my boxes ticked before I decide to see you again?
Yeah.
And that's really harsh. When I think about when we were young and we were dating, that didn't happen. We weren't assessing people based on a checklist or a criteria. It was, do I have fun with, do I feel good with this person? Am I having fun with them? Do I want to see them again? Do I think they're nice?
I think we're pretty happy if you turned up in a clean shirt.
Why have we changed to have this different, hard-assed,
mentality
now?
Of really being very judgmental and critical.
And pragmatic.
59-year-old female says, where are the men who are happy to date women in their own age bracket?
Well, I'm going to say something that will shock you. They are around, they exist. There are lots of them. But what is the hard, honest truth is that men will date if they feel admired. Now, it's not that they're chasing
We're talking about stroking egos here.
Well, you have to think about it from their perspective, okay? Men aren't necessarily chasing younger women. They're chasing how they feel when they're with you. And youth often equals fun, warmth, energy, optimism, low pressure. When a woman of any age dates with that emotional maturity, that emotional combination, men attach. Because it's not necessarily about the physical, it's about how they feel when they're with you. So it's swapping skepticism for curiosity. It's changing guardness for warmth. It's changing things like testing for engagement and flirtation. Nobody wants to sit across the table from someone who feels their judgment, who feels that, that checklist coming out. We want to be in someone's company and feel light, fun, positive.
Yeah.
So it's about coming with that to the table. And, that is associated with youth. And I would suggest women, older women, if they want to date people their own age, absolutely, but bring that energy because that's what men are looking for.
I feel like that could be a very controversial statement. I can feel already there's going to be some very interesting comments coming in on that one. Do you see any of your clients being ageist? Like, do you have men come in and say, I only want to date 20 or 30-year-olds?
No, I don't, because the men that come to my agency are strong, confident, independent. They like a strong, confident woman, and they actually want to date someone who's close to their age because that signifies, there's an equal basis there. Plus, it's so much more enjoyable to have cultural references that can be understood by your partner and not go completely over your head.
Or fall flat, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Trudy, women are more independent than ever. I mean, we don't need men.
No.
Right? We are buying our own cars, we're working, we're going up the career pathway. Are men adjusting okay to that?
Look, some men are and some men are still confused, and I think they have every right to be confused because this is the first time in history where women are dating out of want, not need. So it's really interesting. It's great for women. It's really confusing for men. You know, for decades, the male role was very clear: protect, provide, and lead.
Yeah.
Now, well, a woman can do all of that. I can provide for myself, I can protect myself, and I can make decisions and lead my future and decide where I'm going. So men are left going, well, I don't know where I fit into that.
Where's my
now.
relevance?
Where's my relevance? Where's my value? So it's not as if they're afraid of dating stronger women. They just don't know where their place is.
I feel like men are potentially confused about whether they're going to offend a woman by opening the car door or not opening the car door. You know, I see a lot of women rejecting men's offers like that, and I don't know why. I don't know why. If a woman wants to open the car door for me, I'd be happy with that, right?
Yeah, look.
What are we getting so uptight about?
Look, any form of chivalry is really a form of thoughtfulness, if you think about it. And that's what men are doing. They're just being thoughtful and they're showing you that they care. It is really confusing for men because they don't know whether it's going to be received warmly or negatively. And so they err on the side of caution and they would rather do nothing than do the wrong thing.
So tricky, isn't it?
It is.
It's like a minefield.
I'm a big believer in traditional gender roles. I feel like they worked for a reason for a very long time. Women's role is clear, men's role is clear. Women like a man to lead. They like a man to initiate and to organise logistics and to take control. You know, not saying that women can't have their own input or, you know, contribution.
Yeah.
You know, we'd like the man to take the lead. So why are we stopping him from doing that?
And do you feel like maybe that is an older generational concept? Because if you talk to some younger women, you know, they're quite happy to go 50-50 with the bill after dinner.
Yeah, I just don't believe in the whole 50-50 thing. I think it's an immediate buzzkill. If I was single and I went on a date with a man and he went 50-50, I would be like, I'm not interested in you. And it's got nothing to do with any kind of independence. You know, I want to show that the man is being romantic and wants to provide for me and wants to have a gesture of romance. To me, that's really attractive.
I feel like there could be a lot of women who want both, though. They want their freedom, they want to go out and do their own thing, but then they also want the man to pay for things.
Well, that's just wanting too much because then it gets too confusing. What signal? What's the role?
Trudy, it's time for us to talk about real estate now. Because in a city like Sydney, where, you know, real estate is practically part of your dating profile anyway, does owning property make someone more attractive?
Yes, Australians love talking about property, don't we? At every barbecue, social gathering, it's always comes back to property. I think that at the end of the day, people do admire and respect people that have had, you know, financial security, that have had wins, that have planned for their future. Yes, it is attractive. I wouldn't say that it's essential, but I do think that people find it attractive.
Because I've got a question here from a 42-year-old man who says, I'm a 42-year-old man. I've worked hard, but due to life circumstances, I haven't been able to buy real estate yet. I think women are judging me for that when I go on dates. Am I imagining it?
Look, you're probably not, and I think that women probably are judging you for it and judging you unfairly because, you know, there are very different circumstances for every person and where they are at in their life. But I do think that some people are making very harsh materialistic judgments up front.
Do any of your female clients talk about that as a criteria? Do they say, you know, he must be 6'2" and he must have this job and be earning so much, and he must own his own home?
No, they don't, because when people come to me, they understand that they're meeting other professional people who are successful and driven and accomplished, and that kind of comes, you know,
with that territory.
Yeah,
gotcha.
It's an implied, but they don't clearly stipulate it.
Okay. So do you think postcode matters?
I think postcode matters only because obviously for proximity of dating, it just makes it easier if you're located closer to one another. I mean, you know, to get from the eastern suburbs to the northern beaches, it can take an hour and a half in traffic.
Yeah.
And that does make it more difficult or challenging to just catch up for a quick midweek meal or, you know, a drink.
Is there a comfort distance though? Because, you know, I want my man to be no longer than sort of 15 to 20 minutes away. But at the same time, you know, I do like having a little bit of distance as an independent woman, you know?
Yeah, look, I think as long as you've got someone who's willing to make the effort and travel, then you find a happy medium.
Yeah. All right, so we've made it past the dating phase. We're now talking about moving in together. How do singles navigate that part of the relationship, Trudy? And how soon should you be talking about it?
Well, I think you should be dating for at least 12 months before you decide to move in together. That's just personally my opinion. I think that, you want to have a good basis of understanding, where you're going, where the relationship is heading. Have you considered things like where you want to live, where your future is taking you? Are you thinking maybe of traveling and moving overseas for a few years? There's a lot of variables, and it depends, of course, what life stage you're at. Are you looking at having children? Have you already had children and, you're now empty nesters, or what's your life stage? So I think, you just have to have an honest discussion, but I would say after 12 months is a place where is a good benchmark for then discussing moving in.
And do you have a conversation with your clients in the early stages when you're matching them up about what that future looks like, how soon it might be before moving in and where they might like to live in the future? Is that part of, your criteria?
Not entirely. Most of my members do live in the eastern suburbs, the lower North Shore or the northern beaches. So, of course, they tend to want to stay in those similar areas because they have family, they have friendship groups, that's where their life is centred. It's something that they really navigate themselves.
Trudy, in my line of work, I often see people who are very financially successful. They've got the career, the car, the whole thing going on. But because they've spent so much time attaining that wealth and that lifestyle, sometimes they haven't done the inner work, right? I mean, how important is that before you go into a relationship?
So important, crucial, imperative. You have to be ready before you put yourself out there. It is so important to have dealt with any previous baggage, be ready to take on a new relationship, be ready to be open and engage. It's like you're a broken car waiting to break down, It's not fair to put someone else through that emotional, turmoil, because if you've come to the party ready to be open and you've dealt with your baggage, it's unfair for you then to have to take on somebody else's trauma.
It takes a lot of time to do that inner work, though. I mean, at one point in my life, I was going through a whole heap of trauma. There was multiple deaths going on around me and my family. There was sickness, there was cancer, there was work issues. I mean, it was just one of those periods in life when it was very traumatic. And it took me I reckon probably about 18 months to 2 years of sitting on the psychologist's couch, doing the work, reading the books, listening to the podcasts before I popped out the other side. And I thought, actually, I feel like I'm maybe ready to dip my toe in the water again.
Good for you.
But it does take time. And I feel like there's not a lot of people who are willing to do that work.
I know.
They're like, oh, well, I'm going to the psychologist, but I think I'll go out and start dating again. And still there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's really irresponsible. And you have to also think of other people's emotional well-being, because that's really unfair to I think, to put that on someone. I mean, we have a policy at the agency that if you have ended a long-term relationship, you need at least 12 months on your own in order to deal with that.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Because you have to let the dust settle. You do need time to learn the lessons, to regroup, to feel ready to go back out there. And the reason that people are not doing that is that because they go on an app where there's no control. There's no accountability. They can behave however they want. They can either still be in a relationship and go on the app and see who else is out there because nobody's stopping them. And it promotes this terrible behaviour, I call it emotional roulette, where you just don't know who you're dealing with and what trauma can await you. I mean, I've heard stories of people that have had relationships. One girl was seeing a man for 12 months. He convinced her that, they were in a serious relationship. He completely vanished, ghosted her, and then 2 months reappeared, and she found out that he had another relationship and he had a newborn child with that woman.
God. Are you kidding?
No, sadly.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that poor woman.
Exactly.
That's dreadful.
She's probably lost now 2-3 years of her dating life because she has to recover from that experience. And that's just so selfish of people. You really have to do the work.
Is it more men than women? Because I feel, in my experience, a lot of women are prepared to do the work. but the men not so. You know, I often see men, when they end a relationship, they jump straight into the next thing because they can't bear to be alone for 5 minutes.
That's right. It's true. Men do struggle to be alone. They do need the relationship. And in fact, the people who live the longest are men in relationships, and the women who live the shortest are married women.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it pays. It's good for your health, ladies, to be single, right? I've got a question from a 58-year-old female based on what we were just talking about. Do you believe people should wait until they feel fully healed before dating? Or can healthy relationships be built while you're still working on yourself? And this is good. How do you trust that you are going into a healthy relationship? Like, how do you know if the other person's done their work?
You have to kind of, I guess, look for evidence. Look for evidence in how they communicate with you, how they respond to you. You know, are they requiring a lot of attention from you? Are they love bombing you? You know, that's a sure sign that someone hasn't done the work because they're just wanting constant attention. If someone is secure in themselves, then you know you'll be able to understand that in your communication.
Yeah.
So there are signs and things you can look for.
How much should we reveal about ourselves in a relationship? So, for example, if you've got mental health issues or, you know, there's something going on in the background that you don't feel like blurting out in the first, say, half a dozen dates or so. But what's that point where you say, oh, I really do need to reveal this?
It's a really good question because I did mention earlier good credits and bad credits, which I didn't explain fully. So let me do that now. When you meet someone for the first time and, you know, you're on your first date, what I think is really important is that you establish what I call good credits. Now, good credits are things like, are they showing me signs that they're reliable, trustworthy, honest? Are they genuine? Are they authentic? You want to reveal positive traits about yourself before you start to reveal negative traits, because often people will turn up on a date and they might use it as a therapy session to talk about a past relationship. You're laughing because you've heard this before.
We've all been there.
We've all been there. Or they whinge about their day. They start unloading this information that is totally inappropriate for a first date. First dates should be light and fun. It should just be a little bit, you know, I don't want to say superficial, but it should just be a little bit of pleasantries and understanding whether or not you have things in common. Yeah. Find common goals, interests, life stage. Look for things that you can create connections over so that at the end of the date, you walk away going, I had a nice time. I want to see that person again. You don't walk away from the date going, I know everything about why their past relationship ended, what issues they're facing at work. You know, that doesn't create the desire for you to want to see them again. So what you need to do, in my opinion, is build up those slow credits slowly over a few dates. Then you can start to introduce bad credits, which are things like, you know, talking about, you know, past relationships, which I don't think you definitely should not be doing on the first date. It's a question that everybody feels entitled to ask, but they don't have a right to, because people have context. After they've understood and learnt about you, then you can start to explain negative things. But if you bring those things up on the first date, they don't know that you're a kind, genuine, honest person. All they see is the bad sign or the bad traits. So how are they going to interpret that?
It's a minefield out there, isn't it? How should we feel after a date? I mean, if I've had dinner with someone and I come home, like, what should I be feeling in those days afterwards?
You should be smiling and you should be going, I had a really nice time. I like that person. I want to see them again. I want to see where this could go. I want to give it the opportunity to go somewhere, because this is the other problem that you know, people are facing, that with so much choice, they go, oh, I'll just park this relationship. This could be good, but what if I get something better over here? And I could leave the door open for someone who's smarter, taller, more attractive, more social, whatever it is. We need to stop doing that. We need to stop shopping and start selecting, and stop asking ourselves, is there better? And start asking ourselves, can I build something real with this person?
I met someone recently. So I've been single for about 5 years, 6 years, and I went out on maybe 1 or 2 dates in that time. and they were only one dates. They were single dates. I didn't follow up with those people. But the rest of the time, I was pretty happy Netflixing and cuddling my dog in bed because, I couldn't see a lot out there that was of interest to me. Plus, I was doing the work,
Yes.
getting myself healthy again, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. And then I met someone just at the sort of tail end of last year. So it's still a new thing. But one of the things that I really liked about him was that after our first date, he messaged me the next day and he wrote a beautiful message saying, I can't stop thinking about you. You've been on my mind all night since we left. And then about 2 or 3 days later, he called me and it was just to catch up. How are you doing? What's your day? What's going on? And at the end of the call, he said, Stacey, I just want to tell you, I really like you.
Oh, I love that. No games, just
No
honesty.
games. And I knew straight away that this was a genuine person.
Yes.
He's not out there playing the field.
Yes.
Not looking at options. And he was being very, very genuine in his approach and in his feelings about me. And that then gave me the opportunity to let my nervous system calm down. Oh, does he like me? Does he not? Should I go out on another date with someone else? It just quietened all that side of things down, slowed everything down. I thought, I've got room to breathe now with this person.
Wonderful. He's playing it perfectly.
It's been great, I have to say. So, yeah, we're having a really lovely time together. But coming back to the games, I just think it's a waste of time.
Oh, look, I'm so pleased that you found someone
Yeah.
that is being so authentic and genuine and honest, and sounds like he's ready to say, look, I like you. I want to see where this is going, and I'm demonstrating to you that I have commitment to us
Yes.
as a possibility. It's awful when you're out there and you're meeting people and you're just unclear of where you stand. They're not replying to let you know if they're interested. There's vagueness, there's, moments of uncertainty. And look, that does come with dating. But I just think that the mindset now is that we treat people that like they're disposable. Like there's a sea of endless opportunity of options and I can just go back to the app. If I don't have a 10 out of 10 experience, if I'm not blown away, if I don't walk away from that date going, that was amazing, he's the one, then I have every right to discard that opportunity and go back and find someone better. We have to stop doing this. We have to start valuing the people that we're in front of and give it time. Let it grow. See where it can go, and don't just assess people on the first date to see if they tick all your boxes. Just have fun.
This is what buyers are like when they come through my open houses. They walk in with this list of criteria, and if it doesn't have all that, they walk straight out. I'm like, whoa, hang on, right? If you can tick 7 out of 10 boxes on a property,
yes,
you're doing really well.
That's right.
So maybe we need to have the same criteria for our dating lives.
We do. We definitely do. And I think the problem also comes from women who are really strong and independent and realise that, I can put effort into my career or my business and I can drive it. Yeah. I can give it energy and I can make a success of what I'm doing because I can make it happen. The problem with dating is that you can't really make it happen. It has to be created and it has to grow. So you can't have that same control over it. It is an unknown. So you have to kind of just ride the wave, be open, but also be busy, not be so glued to, when text,
sitting by the phone,
sitting by
like
the
we
phone,
used to
waiting.
back in the old days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you just have to let it breathe.
Trudy, thanks for talking to Real Talk.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been wonderful.